You know, William Ruto has a very interesting mind.
How so?
He has an interesting mind. When he's telling you this, it is the exact opposite that he's planning to do. I've dealt with him much longer than many Kenyans know, and I know him better. The marriage is over. Now, it's not only over, but even any mode of alimony or reparation, I don't see it happening, because you are dealing with two individuals who are strong-headed. The president, given a chance, would have actually wanted to evict Gachagua even out of the country. I'm willing to stake my name that none of the 11 grounds is the truth about why Rigathi Gachagua is being impeached. My own suspicion is that perhaps there is something deeper than what we are being told, or there must be some struggle about the loot that is pervading this particular atmosphere. Otherwise, all these issues are deals. All these, whether it is Shisha, Chief, Adani, Ketrago, G2G, all those are deals.
Subsidized fertilizer?
Fake fertilizer, fake oil. Those are deals to recoup the money they used in the last general election.
So glad to have you on Richard Mwenje Exclusive. The month is October, the year of our Lord 2024. It is a distinct privilege to have your company with us on the show that continues to unpack conversations that are shaping Kenya's political and governance landscape. I'm Richard Mwenje. Welcome to the conversation. And today I have your favorite think tank, the first of his name, former minister, Ruto Arab Kira. Today, looking bright in this navy blue counter suit. How are you doing?
Well, I am happy, and I thank God for everything that happens every day, because each day is a blessing from God. Yeah, as I've said before, there are those who slept last night, but they did not manage to wake up this morning. So it's a blessing, and a day you see a new sunrise is a blessing.
It is a blessing.
And you must thank God. That's the only opportunity that we get without any effort or any investment.
Very well.
Yeah.
All right. Sir, we are looking at a situation whereby Kenyans are questioning the judicial process in this country. And if you look at the woes facing Rigathi Gachagua, His Excellency, how they've been handled this far, it begs the question, the conduct of Gachagua's impeachment motion and also how it has progressed over time, would you say it has been beyond reproach, especially when it has gotten to the courts level?
Well, it's important to realize that all these institutions are necessary. Judiciary, executive, and the legislature. But the main ingredient that is still lacking in us is what I term as political hygiene. Political hygiene in the sense that if somebody is accused of any misdeeds, or any misadventure, or any possibly exceeding the limit of the office, that accusation must be grounded on concrete facts and evidence that cannot be said to have been trumped up charges against an individual. Look at the number of grounds that they had raised against the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. There were about 11. And sure enough, 6 of them were dropped. That's why we are still grappling with 5 of them. Whether they meet the threshold or not, it's an issue that we must ask ourselves. If 50% of the grounds were dropped, it means even the person who initiated the motion never thought through the process. Because you don't need even more than 1 ground. If 1 ground is okay, then on the basis of that person stands impeached. But now, if 50% have been dropped, it seems a lot of witch hunting could have been done, a lot of fishing expedition might have been done, just to look for all manner of things to say this person must go anyway. And because it is a political process, it is also not objective, it's subjective, in the sense that you can have as many opinions on a political issue as the number of people engaging in that particular matter. And the political thinking, if it is different from mine, it doesn't mean you are wrong. You could also be right, depending on your own perspective. Now, the second issue that I still find not properly sitting is the speed with which it was moved.
Why the rush?
Yes, why the rush from National Assembly to the Senate, and even when the guy was said to be indisposed, they still did not want to give him a chance of one more day to Saturday, so that they deal with the issue on Saturday, having a special sitting. That meant somebody somewhere almost wanted to swear the incoming individual on Saturday over the weekend, which is also against the principles of our current constitution. You are supposed to swear somebody on a gazetted place, which must be public, on a day other than Saturday and Sunday and public holiday. So it begs the question, why the rush?
Was there a crisis in the first place?
I do not know whether there is a crisis or there is a crisis in some people's minds, because you see, at times there may be no physical crisis on this space called Kenya, but some people may have their own crisis for reasons better known to them. In my opinion, up to now, none of the grounds meets the level of believing by Kenyans. None of them. The 11, even the 6 that have gone and the 5 that are still remaining, none of them meets. I have a feeling that there is some other reason outside what we've been told about impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua. That I suspect, and with the risk of being proven wrong, I'm willing to stake my name that none of the 11 grounds is the truth about why Rigathi Gachagua is being impeached. My own suspicion is that perhaps there is something deeper than what we are being told, or there must be some struggle about the loot that is pervading this particular atmosphere, whether it is Adani at the airport, Adani in Chief, Adani in Ketrago. That may be the main reason.
Someone might have been sidelined along the way. Perhaps we have seen all this.
Either sidelined or is being sidelined so that it does not bring bad manners around the table. So that could be the reason.
So if you are saying there could be an issue to do with the looting, Rigathi Gachagua was by extension, by then, the second in command. We wait to see what the courts will rule. Would you say then that the author of this loot was now the first in command, the president? Because you cannot sideline the second in command. A junior officer cannot sideline him.
Well, you know, I've said it, Richard. I've said it before, Richard, that the presidency is the president plus some funny guys. People may not hold serious offices. Some of them don't even have job description, but they are generally around the president.
Make-believe individuals?
Those are the make-believe individuals, but in this case, the president has been seen to be involved directly in the impeachment of his deputy. Because, of course, you've seen from Mrs. Karanja, the senator of Nakuru, saying that the president was calling almost somebody and spending 1 to 2 hours trying to make them understand why there is tension and bad blood between him and his deputy, which means he was the main architect of creating the impeachment motion. And that also begs the question, doesn't the president have good individuals who can frame up some issues that can stand the test of time? You could easily see there was no lawyer involved. And if there is a lawyer, what's the name? Leave alone Mutuse. Mutuse has already been declared redundant.
It's not a lawyer worth his salt?
It's not worth his salt. And even the certificate he has, people have to re-examine. Remember Chief Justice Emeritus Willie Mutunga has already said the 2 certificates he has from School of Law and from the university should be relooked again. Perhaps this person did the exam by proxy because he never looked that he has the basic ingredients of a lawyer who has gone through a 4-year course at the university and also 1-year course at the School of Law.
Basic ingredients.
Basic ingredients. Even those of us who have not done deep law, we've done some basic law. Whether it is labor laws, whether it is business law, whether it is international law, and other laws appertaining to various issues, you would understand the law as some kind of logic. And if you have no logic about certain facts you are presenting, it means the paper was done by somebody else and you are paid to present.
Waziri, you are alleging that the president, that is William Ruto, is the chief architect of Rigathi's ouster from office. So then again, by the president a few hours ago proposing that such impeachment issues be escalated to the Supreme Court so that they are done away in record time so that the nation can progress and address other issues. Would you say that you're even reading malice from that proposal?
Indeed, because you see, the Constitution is very clear. They have given 74 days for such an issue to be dispensed with. 14 days for the name to be submitted to Parliament upon a verdict of impeachment by the Senate. And another 60 days for the National Assembly to consider and vote the name of the nominee. And this, so 74 days, they were compressed into about 3 days or so. Number two, remember also, the president referred to various institutions, Higher Education Loans Board, CRB, and including Electoral Commission. An Electoral Commission which does not exist. That's why there are a number of by-elections, about 11 by-elections that have not been done, either for civic or parliamentary positions. That means even that particular position of the new nominee should have gone through the process, and the chairman of Electoral Commission should have National Electoral Commission should have pronounced himself that this person is eligible to be a deputy president. I don't have any problem with Professor Kithure Kindiki, but you see, he must also submit to the process so that in future, when history is written, people will not say Professor Kindiki allowed himself to be misadvised and to his name to be put into some kind of disrepute. Because there's no Electoral Commission up to now. That's why there are those by-elections. And nobody has been able to fill those positions because there is no chairman of Electoral Commission. And remember, the presidential returning officer is the chairman of Electoral Commission. And of course, some people have been arguing, okay, in some places, when the governor is not there, the deputy governor takes over. The deputy governor was affirmed at the beginning of time to be qualified to be deputy governor and by extension governor. And if it was the president who is absent in this case, you would not have needed to take the deputy president go through the mill to qualify to take over as a president, because it is clear. By the time you become deputy president, you qualify to be the president. It's only that it has to be the absence of the real president or the occupant of that office of the president that allows you to be elevated to that position. But in this case, it is the deputy president who is supposed to vacate the office and for somebody else to come in. That person must go through the process that the president and his deputy went in before the last general election. Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, but it makes political logic and political sense. Yeah.
Talking of which, sir, you've looking at the legal battle surrounding Rigathi Gachagua's ouster from office, more particularly the impeachment motion against him that has progressed over time to where we are now today. Would you say that we are taking to our judicial courts lots of political matters? Are you going to recommend maybe it gets to a point where when it comes to impeachment, we've empowered the Senate, but instead of just them making the verdict, we also give them the judgmental powers so that when impeached by the Senate, it's home straight away without now having all this process and corners and turns?
You know, the Constitution is very fair. There is the issue of the political process, and which allows people to make their own judgment on the basis of the facts presented. But there is also the fundamental issue the rights of that individual in the constitution that must also be protected. You can impeach Gachagua, he goes home, but you should not strip him of his rights as a citizen of Kenya to occupy a certain office in future. So those are the two issues that we must also check. And the third issue that the Constitution does also check is whether the due process has been followed. So those three things, the process, the rights of an individual, and also the rights of those who are impeaching, who brought the charges against the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Those three must be harmonized. And the only place where there is sobriety is in a court of law. So the court of law is not engaging in politics. What it's doing is to allow us to separate what is a motive. You don't like this guy, possibly because he has not done this or that. He has called you names. So you are impeaching him on the basis of that. He talked about shareholding, which the president has talked about. He has property that he cannot explain. How many of those MPs or senators can explain their property since they were last elected or appointed or nominated? So all these things, they need to go through a court of law to be able to separate the issues and non-issues, social, political, technical, and constitutional. So that at the end of the day, it is a court of law that allows us to do interpretation of anything that you do, whether you exceeded your limit or whether you did it within the limit or you did it without the due process. And I don't want to engage on whatever happened, but really there are even some areas where we do not have clear rules of play. For example, public participation. What is the threshold? What is the method? What is the process of collecting that information, collating it, and announcing? You know, all those are important for a court of law to engage itself, because we are still testing the operationalization of 2010 Constitution and the laws that should have subsequently been passed in Parliament to guide us in how to implement certain sections of the Constitution.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Waziri, you served as an elected member of parliament for 4 terms.
Yes.
That is 20 years.
Yes.
Representing Chirangani. And you've been here for quite a while. For Kibwezi West member of parliament Mwenge Mtuse, who was the move of the motion to impeach Rigathi Gachagua, he's going to go down in the annals of history as the first member of parliament to sponsor a motion to impeach a sitting deputy president, and successfully has done so this far as we are recording this show. For you, as a seasoned politician, do you think this is a plus when it comes to Mtuse's political future?
Well, it depends on the motive. What was the motive? Was he sponsored? Did he strongly believe he was being driven by patriotic feelings? Or was he doing it to approve certain indications from the gallery? Or was he induced by certain favors? Or did he do it just because he felt he was going to be popular or he was going to be in the news? Because before this impeachment motion, I had not heard of him. I knew there's an MP for that constituency, but I did not know the name. Then when I saw, I thought, is he Mwangi or Mwengi? Then later on I was told he's Mwengi Mutuse. So I came to know him. But I knew him in circumstances that are not so nice as a politician who has served before and also is still around. And somebody who has seen some of those things happen, and you get some kind of temporary fame, like the late David Mwenje. He was so famous, but I don't know whether he made it in the next election. So some of these things really may not be a sign of tenacity of an individual. It's just a sign of somebody who may be prone to certain kind of inducement that allows him to do things that he does not believe in. And it was so clear in the Senate when he was being cross-examined by Elijah Ongoya that the content of the motion he did not own. And it worries me because he's a young person, and being a young person, he should be worried about his future. Yeah, because being re-elected is not an issue, but what is the name that you are giving to yourself, and therefore transferring to your children, and by extension grandchildren. Because this world, when history is written, we occupy chapters that we never knew that we are going to occupy. You either get into good books or bad books, depending on what you do in the intervening period.
The biggest critics in Parliament, the biggest critics of Rigathi Gachagua were Rift Valley allied members of Parliament. Did it come as a shocker for you when the move of the motion was an MP from Eastern Bloc? Do you read something behind that?
It seems it was properly stage managed behind the scenes, so that it is a national issue, while it was clearly an issue around the president and his cronies. It had nothing to do with national issues. And what I'm worried about is that they may want to stretch this issue beyond what we are seeing. After the courts have pronounced themselves, whether the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua will be released, will be allowed to go back to the office, whether those impeachment grounds are going to be set aside by a court of law, because I'm not a lawyer and therefore I'm allowed to think freely as a Kenyan, in my own honest opinion as a layman who understands some basic laws. They don't meet the threshold. Otherwise everybody would be impeached. And you can substitute any name. And they have done the things Gachagua has done.
So in the event that Rigathi Gachagua is reinstated back in office as our deputy president, how do you see the working relationship between him and President Ruto work out? Did you see them mending fences, or Rigathi Gachagua could potentially resign and walk out? And is he likely to walk out with a deal, or just walk out because he won't believe in a relationship, official relationship with President Ruto?
Really, if I were him and I'm not him, I had two chances of making a decision. Before the motion was moved in the National Assembly, the Tuesday, his day of reckoning could have been Monday, so that you have forestalled the motion. Now that he has entered the machine, the next stage for him to make a decision is after the courts have pronounced themselves. If they pronounce themselves in his favor, the working relationship is beyond repair. It is total. You cannot retrieve any sense. And of course, I used to tell him the marriage is over. Now, it's not only over, but even any mode of alimony or reparation, I don't see it happening, because you are dealing with two individuals who are strong-headed. The president, given a chance, would have actually wanted to evict Gachagua even out of the country. Because how? Because even people, even when I lost my seat as a minister, was as a member of parliament, and by extension, I was not reappointed a minister, your security is downgraded, but you are allowed certain
privileges,
level of security, because he's still an endangered person. Why do we give people security? We give them because we feel they are endangered by virtue of whatever they have been doing in that particular office. So today, if somebody knocked Gachagua in the middle of the road because of what he might have said, what he might have done for those 2 years as deputy president, how will government run away from it? So I would have expected that he would be left with certain basic security. And after all, these askaris belong to the government. They don't report to you. They report to your office, but they don't report to you. Their reporting master is elsewhere. So possibly it would have even been good to have some askaris around him, so that he's still able, you are still able to track whatever he's doing. But just because you want to show your might, and you want to prove that you are the main guy, the rest of you follow, you take away his security, you almost sack the people who are working with him as if they are not Kenyans, taking them on compulsory leave as if they are the ones who are opposing the impeachment motion. You know, those are things that really don't give us a good feeling as Kenyans.
Before President Ruto ascended into office, he made a pledge that he would never allow his deputy president to undergo the tribulations that he went through while serving under President Uhuru Kenyatta. Look at what is happening at Rigathi Gachagua right now. Would you say that even for Ruto from the onset, it was all about politics of conmanship, deceit, and just...
You know, even when you are saying that, you know, that's why I've not even visited that issue. I've said it before, and at times I regret why should I say it. Because we know he's a habitual liar. And that was a lie. And I don't think he believed in it himself. Even at the time he was pronouncing that. You know, William Ruto has a very interesting mind.
How so?
He has an interesting mind. When he's telling you this, it is the exact opposite that he's planning to do. I've dealt with him much longer than many Kenyans know. And I know him better.
So he is all about a litany of lies every other time?
As long as it is convenient for him. He can tell you this, after 1 hour, you just find him driving in the different direction.
Barely 3 days ago, he has made a new pledge of eradicating slums in Kenya within the next 15 years. That would be a thing of the past. Is that also part of this, what you say in his playbook of lies?
Is lying 15 years.
That is going to deliver under the affordable housing agenda now that he has the housing levy on board. The courts ruled over the matter.
You know, there is a lot of airtime we are wasting. 15 years, does he expect to be president for another 15 years?
That is going to set the right policies to achieve so. And walk the talk through the housing levy.
Vision 2030 is clear about all those. Even affordable housing was part of Vision 2030. And at times, affordable housing does not mean that the government has to build for you. You create the requisite environment for you to be able to build your own small mabati house in Kitale, or whatever house you want to build anywhere else. Affordable housing does not have to be brick and mortar. It can be even in some kind of design. There are many designs nowadays of housing that you may not even need to use a lot of concrete. Affordable housing is that you are staying where you feel comfortable and you can afford it.
So go straight on it, Waziri. Was that a lie? The 15 years promise to eradicate slums?
What guarantee does he have? You know, it's still a lie. It is just a business. Why didn't the money sit within the ministry, within Housing Finance Corporation? So that if you have some little money, you are assisted to build the house of your choice. You just come and do some concrete, whatever structures here, and you tell us this is now affordable housing. Why does he feel that he's going to be here forever?
So when Rigathi Gachagua says the Adani Group and other PPPs in Kenya that we've seen today are more of executive deals and not people-centered deals, do you agree with Rigathi Gachagua? Because these are some of the woes that he has revealed.
Well, I don't have to agree with him, but what I have always said, and I want to say it again, is that if there was effective management of all these institutions, Kenyans, even you can afford 10,000. And 10 million Kenyans can afford 10,000. That runs into billions. And if it runs into billions, you can invest in all these institutions. And there is this argument, people saying all these things cannot be done by government. In this country, the airport is done by private individuals. Private individuals who happen to come from those countries. But not just bringing some funny guys who have messed Australia, they have messed Bangladesh, they have messed Sri Lanka, and they have messed some places even within India itself.
However, they've recorded successes in Gujarat and Mumbai as it has come from opposition leader Raila Odinga.
Let's assume those are two. I've given you 3 where they have failed. So they have performed 40%. So in the rule of the thumb, there was of any child getting 40% will not go to the next stage. So please let us spare our saliva for better things. Otherwise, all these issues are deals. All these, whether it is Shisha, Shif, Adani, Ketrago, G2G, all those are deals.
Subsidized fertilizer?
Fake fertilizer, fake oil. Those are deals to recoup the money they used in the last general election. Where did that oil go? The edible oil that was poisonous. Did it go with Kuria? Where did what happened to G2G? Gangster to gangster. All these things are just deals. And as I've said before, and let me say it again, for purposes of reminding Kenyans, William Ruto has never changed. He took possession away, got some titles, went to Trust Bank, got some money, shared with those who gave him the titles for the road, and when Kibaki took over, he returned, and the clips are there. And people have been questioning, oh, why does Kirwa talk about how can somebody get title for the road? It is William Ruto who did a fraud by getting those titles. And he shared the money with some individuals in the State House, Ministry of Lands, and he gave to the fellow who owned the bank.
So for him as a custodian of public resources, all along, he has always had corruption embedded in his gene.
The mistake is ours. We've never known him well enough. We've never known him. We've not even asked ourselves, how did they come together with Uhuru? One was seen to be protecting some people in the Rift Valley, and another one protecting some people in Naivasha. And it was a referendum against the Hague, which meant it was an unholy matrimonial arrangement.
Are you afraid that maybe he'll leave this country poorer than he found it?
Who?
President William Ruto?
Worse off. With all the debts. You know, why don't we have all these monies, even whatever the bond, all these monies, why don't they get into parliament? They come and we don't know how they are spent. Just tell me, just look at the books, audited accounts. The auditor talks about this money not being seen anywhere. He'll be so rich and the country will be so poor. Remember Mabutu Sese Seko? He used to lend money to government to pay workers.
You have credited Kithure Kindiki on this particular show to be an independent mind and one who looks at issues with thoroughness and forethought. So should he ascend to the position of the DP, are you not convinced that he's going to check President William Ruto, and especially when it comes to management of public resources and the deals that are coming through for Kenya?
He's too soft.
He won't call out as it is?
No, he's too soft. William Ruto needed somebody strong-headed, but they could not survive together. And I remember I told them, and that's how I moved out of UDA. I was the deputy chair of UDA in charge of operations. I moved out because I knew the two will not last. So the Sunday was named as the running mate. I knew the two will not last. And at times you Kenyans don't give me credit. But it's not, I don't need credit. I just need to be factual.
So do you think Kithure Kindiki runs the risk of remaining a flower girl, even when he ascends to the DP position?
He's too soft and too nice. William Ruto needs somebody like himself, but who knows when to talk and when not to talk. Rigathi Gachagua became overzealous about everything, whether it is shareholding, whether it is about Raila, putting mitegos in that State House. He overtalked and lost favor among other Kenyans. And yet, he was talking the language of the boss. Ruto himself, before election, had said he would not want to deal with Raila in any form. Not handshake, not cooperation, not nusumukate. But he himself now is given him almost a quarter of a loaf. And yet they did not participate in the same election.
That is our next conversation about emasculation of democracy in Kenya and matters to do with political parties and how they forge ahead the oversight roles. In the meantime, let's cross over to this segment that you all have grown to love in a short span of time. That is Heroes Corner with Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa. Today, whom are we extending our debt of gratitude as a country?
Yeah, we'll go to Southwest Africa and we find one individual who has transcended the political landscape, being a freedom fighter, agitating against human rights of the people of Southwest Africa, a country that is now called Namibia.
Namibia?
Namibia. And that is Mzee Sam Nujoma.
Oh.
Mzee Sam Nujoma was born in 1929. and was able to go to various schools, and he joined the struggle for independence. For many years, he fought both in South Africa. He was trained in Tanzania under the leadership of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. 1975, I remember he came with some other people here to Kenya, met Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, and went to Katumani to plant a tree.
He did?
Yeah, 1975. A tree that when he was retiring in 2005, he did a final trip around the continent. And when he was in Kenya, I had the pleasure of being his escort of honor.
Allah?
I took him to Katumani, and he had forgotten. I showed him the tree he had planted. And good enough, he was very excited, and we took various photographs. I don't have copies, but I'll avail them when I write my
You were the escort of honor?
Escort of honor.
After he'd served how many terms in office?
He had served 3 terms.
Oh.
Yeah, from
So that
1990 to 2005.
Okay.
15 years, 3 terms.
So there you are.
Yes.
He was just a freshly out of office president.
Yeah. He was on his way to retire, so he was
Oh.
saying goodbye to presidents of Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a very nice moment, and a very humble guy. We went to Mzee Chalo in Machakos. Mzee Chalo was then dairy farmer, and he does it in a very dry place. And one thing that I learned that I had not learned in school is that the fodder that is a bit dry is better for milk production because the animal will consume more water, and therefore you'll have more milk. He had a nice farm before Machakos town, a farm that was doing very well nationally. So I took him to that place, then Katumani, and I also took him to some tea farm in Limuru, belonging to the late James Karugu, who was our second Attorney General. So we traveled with him, and later on I went back to Namibia to say hi to him.
Oh, you did?
When I was still minister. I went through South Africa, I went to Namibia. And the most interesting thing is that there was so much respect for him, and there is still a lot of respect for him because he's still alive at the age of 95.
Oh, really? He's still in town?
He's still in town, and when the presidential escort or a convoy meets with that of some Nujoma, the president will yield for the old man to pass. I thought that is a way we should be giving to our leaders. Today, if Uhuru met around the roundabout with William Ruto, I don't know, there might be a scuffle because we don't seem to want to yield to those people who occupied certain offices before us.
So the success, that is activism against anti-apartheid in South Africa.
Yes.
So it was not just all about Nelson Mandela and other South Africans. It is people like Samuel Nujoma who are also part of that anti-apartheid campaign.
Yes, and of course Mandela was in South Africa. This one was a German colony called Southwest Africa, now Namibia. Yeah, because you remember the Germans were defeated when they were defeated in the First World War. That place was surrendered to the League of Nations, then later on administered by South Africa before they got independence in 1990.
So South Africa owes it to people like Samuel Nujoma, among other heroes.
Africa, because you remember all those struggles, they took place in Tanzania. Mwalimu Nyerere used to train them, then they go fight. Even the removal of Idi Amin in Uganda, it was done by Tanzanian forces, who, you know, they reduced the number of bullets to fight with the Amin forces through some very interesting patriotic songs. When you capture an area, then you train people to sing with you. So you may have about 2,000 askaris, then you train about 20,000 people, then they keep on singing, moving towards Kampala. That's how they won. So it was not the war of the bullet, it was the war of the mind.
You've decried of our president being a fist manager. You interacted closely with Samuel Nujoma.
Yes.
Was he much of a dictator way down there in Namibia?
No. He was a Democrat, because who believed that the struggle has a certain limitations. And he believed in what also Queen Mazire believes in. Queen Mazire, in his tenure, when he retired, we was told him, but you are still doing very well. Why have you retired? He said, when you reach your internal limit, you must give the way for others. So that is not a sign, that is a sign of a democrat, a sign of a manager, but not a micromanager.
Back here, we are looking at a situation whereby we now have public participation over extension of term limits. That is our next conversation. I'm not going to discuss about that. But there you have it. Africa owes it to people like Samuel Nujoma, former president of Namibia. Thank you so much for your insights, Waziri.
Asante.
We wait to see who's going to be our Shujaa on our next edition.
Yeah.
We hope that you'll now come back home here and celebrate other people. Many are asking, you don't celebrate Bishop Gitari, Alexander Muge, Father Kaiser. What is happening? These are people who criticized KANU, and right there you were marked at the center of KANU leadership.
Yeah. Well, we'll visit that another day. People even like Ryan must also be celebrated. Yeah.
There you have it. Until next time, when we get to do this again here on Richard Mwanji Exclusive, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Keep me engaged on my X and TikTok handles at Mwanji Richard. Let me know what you have, what are your thoughts on our day's conversation, and also subjects that you will wish us to roll on our subsequent editions. Until then, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Waziri, karibu chai.
It's my pleasure.
All right.